Production of Florida Atheists Incorporated. Join us now for Pope Francis' statements. Are they a message of conciliation? As we begin a 30-minute conversation about atheism, religion, state-church separation, and the associated issues of the day. Now, Atheist Forum, Melanie Yoshida and Nan Owens.
Hi, my name's Melanie Yoshida.
And this is Nan.
Thank you so much for joining us. A little bit on my background. I was raised a Catholic, raised my children as Catholics through First Communion, and now I'm an atheist. And like a lot of Catholics, or former Catholics I should say, I was very interested in the comments that Pope Francis had made, where he seems to be offering a very conciliatory view or remarks to the populace versus some of the more indoctrinated stuff of his predecessors. Nan, what did you think about it?
Well, I did find it very interesting. I'm wondering how this will work out. He indicated that some of the areas of contention, such as abortion, contraception, and so on, would not be center stage. And the reason that I found that interesting is that quite some years ago, almost 50 years ago now, when the Catholic Church was having trouble finding enough priests to take care of its churches, the nunneries were emptying out, and the churches were going down in attendance. They made a special, the church leaders looked it over and decided that rather than becoming more liberal, such as the Protestant churches had done, that it was the evangelicals with their stricter rules that were growing much faster. And so they decided not to liberalize. And that was when they particularly hit on the idea of abortion and contraception, to be very hidebound with no leeway in them, because the Catholic Church had not always had the stance that they have right now on them.
Well, the Catholic Church also in the 60s had done a major liberalization with the Vatican changes, allowing the masses to be said in the local languages, not going from Latin. So there was going back and forth. But I just find it very interesting how some of the U.S. bishops have reacted to these pronouncements, and it seems like they wanted to be on the pulpit politicizing these issues, whether it's not wanting to cover contraception like Obamacare demands, and they seem to be actually a little bit disappointed with the Pope. So I'm wondering if there's different rules or different comments on what the Pope's saying, in different areas.
Well, I listened to Donna, the fellow who heads up the American Catholic organization, and he indicated that he was very much behind the Pope, that maybe some things had been emphasized previously that should not have been the center of attention. So I was a little surprised with his reaction. But then, of course, he does need to be behind the Pope in order to stay in good graces.
Well, as a former Catholic, I personally liked this Pope. I like his humanistic approach, and I know that there's cynical people out, who could be saying, well, he's just saying this, it's a business, we need to get people in their seats. But I think it's a very humanistic approach, and I think one of the reasons I left the Catholic Church and became an atheist was I thought the church was just not speaking to the things that were going on in my daily life. So I think that, from that perspective, I like what he's saying. I'm obviously not going to return to the church, but I do like that tone.
Well, I have with me a magazine, It's a Time magazine from last spring titled The Latino Reformation. And it says, Inside the New Hispanic Churches Transforming Religion in America. Now, it's been pretty much common knowledge for some time that many of the Hispanics are moving from Catholicism to the evangelical Protestantism, not the mainstream Protestantism, but the evangelicals, the charismatics, and so on. And so there's several pages of this in here. Well, there is a chart that is in there, that is in here, and I don't know if they've got that on the screen yet or not. And when I saw this chart, I said to myself, they've missed the real story here. This chart is titled Leaving the Rosary Behind, and it shows between the first and second and third generation of Hispanics in this country percentages of them being Catholic, evangelical, or unaffiliated. And what I found interesting is that from the first to the second generation, the evangelical number actually went down a bit. But here's where the story is. The unaffiliated doubled. This is the real movement. Then you go from the second to the third generation. And yes, now it does go up with the evangelicals, but also so do the unaffiliated go up. And in fact, the unaffiliated is larger than the evangelicals. Now, some of that unaffiliated is undoubtedly Christians of some sort or another, non-religious as well, and then people of other religions. But here's where the real story is, which to me says that the press is trying to push this whole religion idea because they think that this is what people want, but obviously the other side is growing more. And in regards to the Pope,
I think he gets it. He's looking at the people who are unaffiliated,
exactly,
and he's trying to get to them. Yeah.
So he's a little smarter than the reporters were.
I agree with you on that. I definitely agree with you on that. And there was, back in July and August, the Pope had made some comments about if you were an atheist, that you should abide by your own consciousness. Some people in the press reported that meant that atheists could get into heaven. He didn't really say that, but he did say God's mercy has no limits.
He did say that, but at a later time then he did say the only way to heaven is through the church.
Yes, exactly. So he still wants to get people, I mean, it's his job. He needs to get people in his church. But it's the first time that what I enjoyed about his message was the first time that he said that you can be an atheist and have morals. It seems to me that up until recently, I remember reading that atheists were one of the most hated groups in the United States, and I don't know why. They never went as far as to saying what the reason was why atheists were hated. But part of it, in my mind, must go to the fact that people thought we had no morals.
Well, and of course they're preached against in churches. Yeah. You know, they're trying to get these blasphemy laws in various places, even in places in the U.S. The Muslims have been trying to get this worldwide, where if you say anything about a religion that not necessarily even putting the religion down, but refuting the facts or truth of something in a religion, that should be able to be prosecuted. And of course I'm completely against that, because I don't think that we should treat religion badly, but we should talk about what are the facts and what are not the facts. So
it's interesting. I'm just thinking of a quote where the Pope had said something about nobody can have all the answers. And I believe as a Catholic, he was supposed to be infallible. So again, that had that...
Well, he's only infallible when he's in camera.
Oh, okay.
When he is making an official proclamation.
You're right.
But other than that, he's not infallible.
You're right. But I did...
that's from a non-Catholic.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a lapsed Catholic, and I don't remember, but I did think that was kind of interesting, and I do think he's making an effort to reach out, because the people are leaving the Catholic Church and they're either becoming other religions or they are going and becoming atheists or agnostics. So, but he's understanding there are different levels of spirituality.
Well, another thing, talking about how the press doesn't get things right and this is even in connection with the Catholic Church. Back when Benedict was Pope, you'll remember that he had that sermon in which he referenced something that happened back in the 13th century involving a Muslim, and of course there was a lot of upheaval from some of the various Islamic countries. But what I found interesting is that although the press made a big deal about that, the whole sermon, except for maybe a couple minutes, was about the dangers of secular government, which is a very important issue to everyone, religious and non-religious alike. But he was adamantly opposed to the idea of secular governments. Now, I don't think Pope Francis has said anything about that.
He has. I don't think so either. Most of his pronunciations so far have been on how he has not. The other thing is that we're talking about it being conciliatory, and even though I'm kind of a fan, nothing that he has said has indicated that the church is going to change any of its teachings.
No.
So he's talking, but and the main thing he's come up with is just let's not worry about some of the smaller moral issues, like you said, the contraception, the abortion, the what was the other one? I think it was also women's role in the church, and he seems to be a little bit conciliatory towards that women have a unique role, but it's not that he's going to let them be priests, and nor do I think he's said anything that he would let the priests go away from abstinence. I don't think he's come up with that either. And these are some of the things that I think the Catholic Church would have to do if they're really, really going to make a difference in their numbers.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that the Pope is just kind of playing nice right now. And
well, I guess it's just nice to have a Pope that's playing nice.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, that was some of what I was getting after when I was talking about the blasphemy laws, and that is to to get away from some of that where you're denying a person because of what their religious view is.
And obviously, United States is supposedly a secular country, but you do see religion creeping in everywhere.
Well, you have some states trying to pass those laws.
And it's very, very scary. And what I find interesting is that just having the moment of silence, like the old joke is, as long as there are math tests, there's prayer in school. So no matter what, at some point, consciously or unconsciously, we will close our eyes when we're in a difficult situation. We go to our higher power, and I always think that higher power is the better of me, like my better self. Like if I'm having a challenge, I don't need to go to the great spaghetti monster in the sky to give me power, but I need to dig deep within myself. And the Pope had made some comments just about how he prays all the time, but maybe we can start giving some spirituality and morality just to these moments of silence, just to being the better person. And I'd like to, I don't know if he's going to come out and say anything like this, but as atheists, we might be able to bring that to the forefront, like it's our version of prayer.
Well, I don't think it even has to be our version of prayer. I think that the point is that if it's anything connected with the government, I don't have a problem with the moment of silence. Like you said, it's
Right.
not a bad idea to do some reflection or not think, just fall asleep for a half a second. If somebody else prays, that's nothing off my skin, as long as nobody is forcing their prayer onto me. But absolutely any prayer, whether it's sectarian or not, in regards to a governmental function, is out of line and unconstitutional.
I think most of us, I think all atheists would agree with that one. Even some people who aren't atheists would agree with that one, that they'd still want the separation of church and state. If you're Muslim, you don't necessarily want to go to a town hall meeting and have them pray to Jesus. So I think we're I pretty much agree with that. For the other things that the Pope was talking about, I'd like to, since we're both women, a little bit on the role of women. He, again, has not said that women will be allowed to become priests, but one of the things that he's really eased up on, there's a group of nuns in the United States that have been really pushing social issues. They ride in a bus around the country, and boy, they really got Benedict upset. He was very, very upset with them. And I thought it was very interesting that Francis has been very conciliatory towards them.
Well, I'm not surprised because they had a very positive reaction from the people.
Right.
People were angry at Benedict about it.
Right. So again, it's this populist version, and they are doing much needed social work. We do have huge levels of inequality in this country. We do have a lot of people without health care. So I thought, things like that, he's letting women be women. He understands that we need to go out and serve. And so I thought that was pretty cool, that he backed off without the doctrine.
The health care issue is nice. I had a letter published in the Tampa Bay Times last summer about that very issue, and that is that a group in Illinois that did health care work said that they refused to do it if contraception was going to be included to the people who worked in it. Now, this was a taxpayer-paid project. The church, even though these Catholic things have the church's name on it, way, way less than 1% of the funding for hospitals, healthcare projects, etc., come from the church itself. Most of the money comes from taxpayer money, federal, state, local, and from other charities as well. So this group said, well, they were not going to do the this particular project if they had to offer the contraception, and so they were going to pull out. And I had no problem with that. If you had to have the proselytization in order to get the service, there's others that will do it.
Yeah, I understand. So the other thing I wanted to bring about was he did talk about the faith and the doubt. So I had a great quote from a metaphysical preacher of mine who talks about religion is belief in someone else's experience and spirituality is having your own experience. So I'm wondering if Pope Francis is giving us a little bit more leeway to have our own spiritual experiences. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Okay. I was in a philosophical group that met to talk about philosophical issues that various of the people suggested, and one of the ones that was suggested was was about spirituality. It was from a Jewish woman who wanted to be spiritual, even though her religion does not recognize an afterlife. And so I did all my study in the various humanist things to see if I could find some definitions of spirituality that wouldn't include religion or some kind of thing inside of you that doesn't exist and so on. So I brought those up in the meeting, and the fellow who was moderating it, who happened to be a fervent Catholic, said, well, no, those meanings of spirituality could not be accepted because they really had to do with emotions rather than spirituality. And the talk went around the table some more, and what it finally came down to, that he spelled out for us, that in order to be spiritual, you had to have a soul. And in order to have a soul, there had to be an afterlife for that soul to go to. So at that point, I guess that kind of closed the book for me on spirituality, because when we did the final thing and we had to go around and say, what it meant to us, the whole discussion, I had to admit that if that's what spirituality was, that you had to have this eternal soul with some other being that gave you spiritual life, I just had to deny that such a thing existed.
Well, for me personally, I think that would almost be his opinion. Like, I consider myself spiritual because I believe when I do good things, when I help somebody out, I feel better about myself. And that's almost like I personally believe that's how most people are. I think that altruistic nature is hardwired in us. So I don't need to believe in an afterlife to have some spirituality. So that was, I understand that was his opinion, but
right. Well, what you're having to deal with there, what is the general definition? What do most people see it as? I was at another meeting where these women came. They were doing a study on spirituality and health. And in most of the spirituality that they were professing did have to do with religion, like praying with a patient or doing this or that. And I remember feeling very frustrated because a lot of the things really had to do with ethics, which I felt that I could beam in on. But because they kept saying that it was spirituality and having to do with prayer, that left me no place to be able to vote or to answer the questionnaire that they were trying to have people fill out this questionnaire for their larger study, because that's what a study is taking a lot of opinions. And I was pretty frustrated because most of it was true of me, but it couldn't be under the aegis of spirituality as they were interpreting it with the prayer and everything else.
I understand. That's interesting. I've only recently been doing a lot more research about how studies on people looking at children, that they naturally are inclined to help others, and I kind of viewed that as our spirituality as humans, that we want to be better, we want to leave the world a better place.
Well, our primates spiritual. Apes, bonobos, and so on, are they spiritual?
I don't know, but they definitely do help each other out.
Yes,
they're very altruistic.
Yes.
They're very altruistic. So I guess would they have the idea of spirituality and trying to leave, whether it's the world or myself, a better place? I'm not sure, but I know that I guess that's the difference between a human. Like, I know I feel better when I help others out, and I know I feel better if I'm trying to leave the world a better place.
Well, do you think they feel better when they're giving something to another?
Yeah, I think they do, kind of. You see when they're laughing and they're playing versus when they're, so there's probably some aspect of that there. Well, it's like the old things about, all dogs go to heaven. It's just like, but, well, are you ready to wrap up? Do you have anything more? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for watching our podcast. I just want you to remember that we are the Atheists of Florida. We're a nonprofit membership organization headquartered in Tampa, Florida. And if none of our officers, board members, or production crew receive any financial compensation. We're all volunteers. You can become a member for the modest annual membership fee of only $20 and help support atheist outreach in Florida. As a member, you can receive legal counsel if you feel you're experiencing religious discrimination in your school or workplace. You can also receive a printed copy of our newsletter and place free classified advertising on it. For more information about Florida Atheists, please visit our website at floridaatheist.org, where you can see more archived Atheist Forum productions, read our recent newsletters, and see our mission statement.
And remember, if the story seems too implausible to be true,
don't believe it just because somebody wrote it down.
Right. Thank you.
Make them prove it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Atheist Forum. The Atheist Forum comes to you from the Atheists of Florida, a nonprofit membership organization that brings atheists together to become aware of state-church separation issues and to stand up for our constitutionally guaranteed freedom from religion. To learn more about Atheists of Florida, write Post Office Box 130753, Tampa, Florida 33681, or email us at atheistforum@aol.com. And be with us next week for more talk and talk back about freedom from religion here on the Atheist Forum.